Hey guys, welcome back to the LY show. I'm Li Ying. We're still waiting out COVID-19. So even though it's super hot in Shanghai today, we're still practicing social distancing to some extent. And today we're so excited to have Erica Switzer joining us. For your information, Erica is the founder of HeiNow Comedy, and she's the first Black comedian that performed in Mongolia. So how did that feel, performing in Mongolia?
In one word, surreal. Because if you would have told me at any point in time in my life that I'd be doing comedy in Mongolia, I wouldn't have believed you, even when I moved to China. So to have it happen was an amazing and unforgettable experience.
Wow. Okay. Was it very different from performing in China?
A little bit,
Uh-huh.
because the crowd was a lot more receptive to
really?
more Western style comedy.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
It was surprisingly good.
All right. Okay. So are you thinking of going back there sometime soon? No, not.
Well, if I could, I would,
Uh-huh.
because it is unexpectedly beautiful.
Exactly.
And the people were super friendly. The prices were reasonable. And it was a great experience. I'd go back there in a heartbeat if I could.
All right. Sorry. The prices to perform or the prices?
The prices to live, to eat, to get transport was all very affordable.
All right. Okay. Great. Good to know that. And you're the founder of HeiNow Comedy. Could you please tell us a little bit about HeiNow Comedy?
So when I started doing comedy, I would notice that even though we're out here in a big expat community and there's people from all walks of life, there wasn't always a big presence of people that look like me, let alone women that look like me.
Oh, yeah.
So my former partner and I went ahead and had a shared vision and put together an amazing comedy troupe. And then we started putting together great shows. And so the turnouts, especially for the first show, were amazing. We had to turn people away because we packed out this small back room of a bar, and it became a hit. So we started planning shows every other month, doing themed shows, and just really bringing our kind of raw, biting style of comedy to people here. And also felt good to do more American style comedy, specifically a blacker comedy, if I can say. Because sometimes I notice I can get on stage and just start speaking in idioms that people won't know.
Exactly.
Or slang that people won't know. And even though I'm not the blackest comic, I still love not having that extra language barrier. So we would do these shows, and it turned out so well. The ex-co-founder found herself in some hot water and is no longer here. That's on her own fault. She did that. I'll never take away anything from her talent, but I will say that she at one point called me and the whole troupe hired help. And I was like, this ain't all about you. She's like, oh no, these people come, these are my fans. All these people come to my fans. And it's like, wait, hold on. Pump your brakes. Stop. We're building something here as a community, and you can't say that it's all you. You can't negate people's contributions, people's performances, and the time and energy we spent in cultivating something real. So from the ashes of that came the rebranding and holding on to our comics, but then also welcoming in other brothers from other cities in China.
Exactly.
And bringing in guests. Some of the folks that are on our scene became guests. And now we're growing into something even bigger, and I'm very fortunate to help kind of lead the way. I'm not going to sit here and take all of the credit for it. If we didn't have Dan Roman, if we didn't have Clem, if we didn't have Adam, none of this would be possible. So I'm fortunate for our future too.
Great. For those people who don't understand Chinese, hey now is like two words. The first one is Chinese.
Hey.
Hey, meaning
Black.
And then now is just now. Yeah. So what's your vision for HeiNow Comedy?
Ideally, I would love to see it continue to thrive here and be a trusted name for high caliber, big laughs, big certified laughs, multicultural experience. And I think that's something that is very valuable here, considering, China is not a monolithic place. There's natives here that are interested in what we have to say, but then there's also a huge expat community here, and we'd love to be able to perform for everybody who wants to hear it.
All right. So, so far, for HeiNow Comedy, you're having a regular open mics, and then for now they're not big events, but you think that will come back soon?
Here's hoping that with things turning around or turning a bit of a corner here, that we can go back to having bigger events, because we know the power of having those big shows. We know the power of being able to draw big names in. And here's hoping that that kind of entertainment can go back to normal pretty soon, as life as normal resumes here.
All right. Just now you were saying that, you're the first Black comedian that performed in Mongolia. What did that mean to you personally, and what did that mean to other comedians out there, of colors or, from any type of community out there?
It was one of those things where it was cool to see somebody who used to be a part of the community here establish themselves in Mongolia, and then say, hey, we're doing our first comedy festival and we're inviting you guys to apply for it. And I had already been about 2 years into my comedy career. I was feeling myself after a really good set that was recorded, and said, I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And 2 weeks later, I get the call that I'm coming up. And I'm like, wait, what? Me? For real? And before we knew it, it was the thing. So even though I mess around and I talk about it and I say that and 15 R&B will get me a John Bing, it's kind of history in the making, low key, you know. But I hope that my experience can show people that it is possible to dream bigger, or to go after that thing that you thought was impossible, so I'm very happy for the opportunity and happy to have had that experience.
All right. So after you've performed in Mongolia, I mean, were there people coming to you and then, talking to you? Yeah. It,
in a way, forced me to continue to do better and better and better and better. I think that's one thing you see here with the kind of tight-knit community that we have. When one person is stepping their game up, writing new material, taking risk, performing better, then it makes all of us kind of start doing it in stages. And it makes the whole scene better. And that was one of those things where me and the folks from our scene that were on that festival really kind of took stock in. When we came back, it wasn't just, oh, here's my ego. It was, I got something to prove. I can keep doing this, and I can keep getting better and better and better for myself and for the community.
Cool. You started off as a comedian even before you moved to China, right?
No.
You started off here?
Yes.
Wow, okay. So what got you to start doing it? And it's like a comedy in Shanghai and comedy, you're from Chicago, right? What's the difference between the comedy scene when you started off?
So when I was growing up, my family had always had a big interest in comedy. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my dad had this particular tape called Bebe's Kids. It was a Black comedian named Robin Harris. And I loved this tape so much. I loved seeing him laugh and hearing those big belly laughs at certain jokes. And I would listen to that tape with him, and I listened to it on my own, and I started kind of getting this rhythm. I started listening to comedy in a different way, hearing it like music, but then also understanding setup, punch, and the science behind it. So to me, even from an early age, I knew there was great power in being able to give the gift of laughter. And so I knew at some point in my life that I wanted to pursue comedy in some way. But even as I went through higher education and got degrees in creative writing and English literature, it never dawned on me until I was a fully grown adult that I could have been doing comedy writing the whole time.
Oh.
So in 2013, I started doing hashtag jokes on Twitter. In the States, there was a pretty popular show called At Midnight, which would have a panel of American comics, sometimes international comics, come through, and it was like Jeopardy for comedians.
Okay.
And then they would do hashtag wars where folks could get interactive and go on Twitter and give their responses to the nightly topic. And then so from there, I wound up building a bit of a Twitter following, but also thinking I could do this. Because if I could boil down jokes or add tags in 140 characters, then I could write comedy. So when I made the decision to move to China in 2016, I knew that I wanted to pursue the things that I love the most, being education, public speaking, and comedy. So this was all in the plan before I got here. It was just a matter of time. And certain situations led up to me having a few drinks and having some bad breakups and linking up with a few of the regulars on our scene at a small open mic. And just hanging out with them after a few drinks and riffing with them. They're like, "You're really funny. You should try this sometime. You should try it sometime." And they'd see me more often and be like, "Hey, you getting up? You going on this open mic?" Nah. Typical Erica. Okay, all right. Maybe next time. And so when I finally started doing it, I was doing it once a month at a pretty popular club. And after one of the shows, one of the owners came up to me and said, "Why don't you do this more often? You're really funny." And I said, crippling anxiety. So it was one of those things that I had to overcome. But once I get that bit of encouragement, I was unstoppable. I was doing it every time I could get up. Every Wednesday I could get up, I was on. And I was doing old material, trying new stuff, just trying to be me on stage and be funny. And from there, when I got that first showcase, and the rest is history. What was the other question you asked?
I mean, and then at some point you went back to visit your family, and you also did it in your hometown, right?
I did not. So I started really doing comedy here in 2017. I did not go do comedy back home until last summer. And that was the first time. And it allowed me to go do my comedy, not pull too many punches, and do it in a kind of raw form. And it went over pretty well. And I pushed myself as hard as I used to back then, getting on 3 to 5 open mics a week, sometimes doubling and tripling. One of the guys from the scene, who's also from the area, we linked up, we hit a few mics together. And it was a lot of fun. And it was great to feel like my material does work. It works at home. So that was a win. So I'm looking forward to every time I go back to Chicago now, I try and hop on a mic or two. And I'm really fortunate that I've been able to network so well and make a lot of cool connections and get known by a few different establishments there.
Great. Does it feel different to do comedy there and here?
Well, for one, what's the same is you're always going to worry if you're going to be funny or not.
Exactly, yeah.
And that could just depend on your mood, their mood as an audience, your material, how you deliver it. I know that there's a certain way I can deliver it in America, and now I'm just trying to develop some kind of singularity where whenever I hit that stage, I'm trying to give you some energy, some pizzazz, tell my jokes. There was a lot of growing pains where even though I was doing pretty well as an open micer, there was still that added challenge of what mix of a crowd are we going to get tonight? Who's going to understand it more than the others? Can I, and then so the challenge from there was, can I take it seriously, put my head down, and write jokes in a more relatable way? Because as much as I'd love to get on stage and just be me, I also love being able to reach everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. And you went back to Chicago when the virus hit China, right? And then you came back. And were you, when you were in the States, okay, were things bad there?
I left in the middle of February
Mm-hmm.
when things started getting really bad here.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my own going stir crazy in quarantine, not knowing what was going to happen next, dealing with that uncertainty. Was it going to get so bad in China that I wouldn't be able to go back home?
Yeah.
So that's why I made that really hard decision to go home. But it's not a hard decision when it's like, I'm going to hang around my friends and family, hang with my baby, and really try and enjoy life for a little bit, you know, even if it meant having to come back to China.
Yeah.
I had my head down and I was so focused on doing distance learning as a teacher and still trying to do some open mics weekly and still trying to be the best daughter and best girlfriend I could be. I couldn't tell that it was getting that bad until March when Washington State started taking a big hit, and then all of a sudden New York is going crazy, and here I am thinking, it's just a matter of time when Chicago is going to get bad. But my head's down, I'm focused, I'm trying to live life, enjoy myself. I'm grateful that I did take the chance to go back home, but I'm also grateful to be here right now.
Yeah, you made the decision to come back at the right time. Yeah, right. Yeah, and right you came back, you got quarantined, right?
Yep.
Your own house? Right?
I was quarantined. I was on semi-quarantine when I went back to Chicago.
Oh, you were quarantined there too?
Semi-quarantine.
Okay,
because
what does that mean?
So that means in February, if you came from China and went to O'Hare Airport, you had to come through customs and TSA at a different area than everybody else. And they would ask you questions. They would ask you where you've been, they'd check your documents, and then say, all right, please proceed, and then give you a bit of a health check. Temperature testing, and just asking you to fill out a questionnaire about the symptoms and all that. And here's this packet from the Department of Health. We want you to report your temperature and your symptoms every day for us for 2 weeks. And that's how they were keeping an eye on it there. So basically, I've spent 6 weeks in some form of quarantine during this whole period. But it's for the best. I don't want to be a public health issue.
Yeah, exactly. So then, and then you came back, you were quarantined here. How did you spend your quarantine time here? When you came back, that was like a complete quarantine, right?
Complete quarantine.
Yeah.
For real quarantine.
You didn't step out of your house for 14 days?
I stepped out to grab a box of water and went right back in. Because I didn't want any alarms going off, anybody calling me talking about, are you still in your apartment? I didn't want any of that.
Yeah.
I dealt with it a lot better than I did the first time.
Back home?
The first quarantine here during Chinese New Year period.
The self-isolation thing. Okay,
Yeah.
but when you came back from Chicago, it's like you have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the second time is better.
Yes. Because then I had more peace of mind.
Uh-huh.
I had more peace of mind knowing that whatever would happen, I've already spent time with the people I love, with the people that mean the most to me. And we're still in great contact and constant communication. And so I felt better. I felt lighter. And I'm not so much in my head about the what ifs. So dealt with it a lot better. I still, obviously still worry for them on a daily basis, but not to the point where I'm going to drive myself crazy or have a mental health breakdown on my own. So,
Was it difficult the whole time?
the first time, yes. Coming back here, no.
All right. And also has something to do that in March things are getting better here, right? Yeah. And then, so how did you spend your time? Writing at home?
When I was home, ooh, I love my friends and family very, very much. But sometimes I would feel like they were auditioning. Girl, look, check this out. I got this one for you. Look. It's like, okay, what you got? But I did wind up writing a lot of material because I talk about him a lot, but my boyfriend is naturally very funny. And I don't know if Stephen Smith's been on a show, but it's like dating Stephen Smith. It's like,
Why?
I'm going to grab the magic of this moment and make you laugh. Hey! Like, all of a sudden. Just random. And sometimes the random stuff that comes out of his mouth, I'm like,
Okay.
I couldn't write this any better, but I'm writing it down right now.
Uh-huh.
So, like the Popeye's chicken jokes,
Uh-huh.
it's a real
Yeah.
thing.
Uh-huh.
The movie joke, real thing. It was amazing. I was like, for everybody auditioning for me, no, you win. You get
Yeah.
it.
But you guys, in a distant relationship, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, how, I mean, a lot of people are talking about, like, having a relationship during this, COVID-19, like, it's hard and stuff. How do you manage that? If it's too personal, you don't have to answer it.
Consistent, transparent, mindful communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm there or not, he knows that I'm giving it to him straight and he's giving it to me straight.
Mm-hmm.
I send him pictures every day,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I'm coming home from an open mic. Or that's often why an open mic's done. You see me rush to my phone and I'm looking. Get a message from him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, baby.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing? Just got done talking about us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good show.
Great. Okay. I'm gonna ask this question. Like, is it difficult for like a female comedian to date?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. What are the difficulties? You're good now, so you can talk about it.
A lot of dudes' difficulties lie in the fact that they could become punchlines.
Okay.
And so even before he and I met and I was on dating apps, and I did joke, I have made so many jokes about these dudes on dating apps. So many. One of them was very true. When I talked about, well, they're all true. You saw some, were you in that group?
And which one?
Oh, you're not in a group?
Uh-huh.
Leah, you're in a group, right? You saw the screenshots? Yeah, see? I'm going to have to show you those screenshots.
Yeah.
Those jokes are true.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make this up. These are what these guys said to me.
Wow.
And I put them on stage. And it's like the jokes write themselves.
Uh-huh.
And this one time, this guy messaged me after I switched things up. And he's really like, I barely have what you're looking for. You're probably going to write a joke about this.
Uh-huh. I don't know.
It happened.
They're so serious about this?
Sometimes they are.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they are. But I liked the fact that somebody, very cute, adorable, so handsome, I was interested in, had a little thing with, was at one of these shows. And came up to me after the show, said, hey, when you get your Netflix special, you can make a joke about me.
Aw, what a...
And I was sitting here like, first of all, I already stood on stage and told you I'm with somebody, but you trying to get that old thing back? What is that? But no, it's I guess some guys can either be intimidated by having a girl that's funnier than them, or they're going to become a punchline, or that it's always a competition, or that they feel like they always have to be on too. And that's one of those things where, I mean, I'm very transparent about who I am and what I do to everybody. So,
or you always have your voice on stage. Yeah.
exactly. And so that's why, like I said, it's great that even before he saw me perform in person, and it became more real to him than me just saying, after we met, I started telling jokes about you in Shanghai, and they started going over well. I came back, I did some of those jokes, and he's like, oh my God, you're hilarious.
Yeah, they always say that women cannot take jokes. So you think the guys that you date, I mean, not you, I mean like a female comedians date, cannot take jokes either, right? Generally.
It depends.
It depends.
I'm a weird one. I like roasting.
Yeah.
Been in the roast battle dudes in the roast battle, beat them up. So no, I can take a joke. And there's hardly anything that's off limits for me. But I also try to be flexible and open-minded. I know when things are jokes and when things are not. And if I have a problem with something, I'll tell somebody straight up. But it's a delicate balance. You know?
Great. I'm glad that things work out for you.
Y'all might have to edit out all these shots of me slugging this Bombay saffron.
No, they're just water. Lemon.
It's a hot day. It's lemon water.
Yeah, that's great. And then you're trying to build up this community. I mean, like specifically to begin with, like Black comedians. And how has that been going?
A lot of us have gone home.
Because the virus, or just
Partially.
partially?
For example, my best buddy, as far as that goes, my touring buddy, stuck. Couldn't get back in. They kept moving his flight to the point where then all of a sudden the travel ban was on. He couldn't get back in. So that's an issue. One of the first guests that we had was from Wuhan. Was one of those first evacuees. So, I mean, things are just a little weird right now on that front, but we do have a couple that are developing. And you met the other one from Wuhan that was here for a month. Made a big splash. Hey, come through.
Shout out to Daniel.
Shout out to Daniel. You come back. We got it here for you. All right. I'm a big cheerleader. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm a fan of comedy, period. If you make me laugh, and it's not like you got to answer to me or anything like that. And I'm not like the biggest critic or anything like that. But if you make me laugh and I see it in you, if I see the potential in you, I'm going to encourage the hell out of you. If it's something you really want. Or if you're just a hobbyist and you're like, oh, well, I just do my thing. Still, I'm going to be like, hey, that joke was fire. That tag was fire. The way you delivered that was fire. Keep doing that. And that's just who I am and who I've always been. And I want to be more of a benefit to the community. Me being in the community doesn't mean give me all the shine and all the spotlight. I'm grateful for the opportunities, but I love seeing the people around me going up and leveling up.
When you're doing comedy, you're also reaching out to Chinese, audience. It depends on how big the crowd is sometimes. So I mean, like, how I mean, from your perspective, how do you connect with these people? I mean, like, was it easy at the first, or how do you I mean, like, you're doing comedy in English most of the time. Most of the audience are like expats, and then but you're living in China, so still how do you digest or connect or learn about the local culture and stuff?
I think one of the things that comedy has taught me, aside from the importance of being relatable to get everybody to laugh, is also how you communicate. The language that you use, the level of language you use, and how you deliver it. Because all communication, right, has to have a sender and a receiver. If I can deliver a message to you in the most simple language possible, that regardless of where you're from in the world, you can understand it, that's important.
Do you like doing that, or do you like, oh my God, why, do I have to, simplify my language, to make these people understand?
I like it.
Okay.
I like it as a challenge. I like, how do I get to really say on fleek and have everybody understand that? It's something that gets me to strengthen my own writing and to help students strengthen theirs. My students could tell you, oh, she's always talking about concision. Comedy is concision. If you can get to the punchline in the shortest amount of words, sometimes that's for the best. So transferring those skills is important.
All right. Yeah, I remember you have like a very classic joke about single ladies, and then cheers to that, and then a lot of a lot of our Chinese audience are ladies, okay, and many of them are single, right? So, you wrote that when you were single, but it's just, I think a lot of Chinese girls can relate to that. And that was so, and you learned the Chinese term. So how did that, come around? I mean, how did you know about that? How did you get to know about some local stuff and then bring that into your biz?
I have to say that working with other Chinese lady comics helped that tremendously. One of them who I used to perform with regularly, especially when we were doing lady shows, would have her set about being a leftover woman and how her parents wanted her to marry and not settle, but you're getting too old and we can't afford to be so strict, so go do what you want.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was looking at this kind of cultural term and seeing how do I stack up to that.
Yeah.
As somebody on the other side of the world who's night and day from that or far removed from that, what kind of funny juxtaposition can I make? And that's the way that joke turned out.
Yeah, apart from like building up the HeiNow Comedy community, you're also working with a bunch of like female comedians. Many of them are locals and also some international female comedians. Yeah, how does that feel to work with a bunch of girls, very smart ladies? Yeah, and of course there are challenges as well. So what are the beautiful things of working with them, and and also what are the challenges you guys face as a group? And that's not a big group.
It's not a big group. It's definitely a smaller group now. I think one of our best buddies who had just left summed it up perfectly. After one of the shows, said, I really love the energy you guys bring when you're on stage.
Yeah.
I love the energy at these shows. And it just so happens that when we get together and when we speak our truths and be funny women and also can be insightful and intelligent and still crack jokes, it is a different kind of vibe. It is a hugely supportive vibe, and we're just kind of there in sisterhood, you know, laughing along with it. Like, I've been there. I know that pain. I know that struggle. I can laugh at it with you. So I think it's been awesome. That's how I got my start. My first showcase was a lady show. And no offense, gentlemen. No offense at all. But when we all get together as ladies and we can do what we do, it's a win. It's a win for everybody.
And at the same time, you also work with a lot of dudes. And a lot of times you're probably the only one or one of the few ladies being around with this male comedians. How does that feel, being around with those guys while you're the minority?
I used to get in trouble back in the day for stuff like that because I was always a little tomboyish. I always liked hanging with the guys a little bit more. And then as you get older, it's like the girlfriends are like, what's she sniffing around for? It's like, I'm not interested in your man. He's just a good dude. We're just vibing out. It winds up being the same thing. But not so much in the way of any jealous girlfriends trying to run up at me. Like, what are you doing? It's just chill. I'm not going to say I'm one of the guys. But in some topics, I am. Sometimes I can see it from a dude's perspective and go ahead and chime in real quick. No harm intended, It is, they speak a very different language than we speak sometimes. But I appreciate being able to just kind of adjust and adapt to whatever crowd, whatever environment.
All right. So in general, because we always hear, ladies talking about the challenges of, being a female comedian. Do you feel that too?
Yeah. But it's a challenge I like, and it's probably one of those things that keeps me going and pushing myself. How can I craft a joke that stays true to my own unique experience as an African American woman, but how can I also be relatable to everybody? So that's one of those things that keeps me pushing and that keeps me trying to write stronger and stronger.
All right. You have been to Mongolia. That's one stop, right? After you perform, do you see yourself like traveling to different places in the future? Probably not the near future.
Ideally.
Ideally, okay. It's gonna be difficult, isn't it? Being away, being away. If it's a long tour.
It could be, but I would hope that by then that I'd have the years of experience under my belt and have the credits and the credentials under my belt where it would be well worth it. I love the fact that starting to do comedy here 3 years ago has opened up all these opportunities, and I'm excited for the future.
How do you, where do you see yourself in 5 years as a comedian? Or 10 years. I mean, have you ever...
Doing my first Netflix special in 5.
And get that back to that guy? That we know.
So that I can do my joke about Boo-Thang. And hopefully I'd have a few film and television credits under my belt within 10. One of my role models growing up was Whoopi Goldberg. So even though I make the jokes about looking like her or whatever, being millennial Whoopi Goldberg, it's true. When I was growing up, she was doing one-woman shows on Broadway. She was having a killer run with movies. And she was on her way to winning an Academy Award. And I saw that and I said, she looks like me. You know, she's one of the few women on TV in the 80s that look like me. And I was like, I could do that. I could see myself on the stage and making people laugh and making folks feel good. You know, she could go from doing these one-woman monologues to comic relief to The Color Purple, which is a staple black film. Staple. If you haven't seen The Color Purple as a black person, you might have to have your black card revoked. Doing The View now, winning that Oscar for Ghost. How could I not want to push myself to go that far? You see somebody that looks like you go that far, feel like you can go there too. So I'm encouraged. I always have Whoopi in the back of my mind.
What do you want people to take away from your comedy?
I want people to be bold and fearless and confident and unbothered and unfazed and live in their truths and love who they are. And be comfortable talking about the people that you love and then pay it forward that way.
Great, awesome. And what about, let's talk about HeiNow Comedy again. I mean, like, what do you think HeiNow Comedy would be like in a couple of years here?
I would love it if there was still HeiNow Shanghai and maybe HeiNow Tokyo. And HeiNow Chicago. I would love to see it keep growing and thriving. And again, to be a nice outlet, especially here in Asia, for comics of color.
Even though like it's called HeiNow Comedy, but it's very like a welcoming, like everyone can be part of it. All right, that's what's happening here.
Definitely.
Yeah, great. And then so, because like we're talking about COVID-19, I mean, like it's been, oh my God, how many months? It's so long.
11.
All right. So, Erica, how has this COVID-19 experience shaped you in any way or made you think of anything in particular?
It's made me be a lot more mindful about how I communicate with people, period. How I present myself. And it's made me a lot more active toward achieving goals, or at least laying the groundwork toward the things that I want to have in my life. It's made me not take anything for granted.
Oh, great. Yeah. All right. So you mentioned that like you watched the tape and then you knew that you would do comedy, but I bet a lot of people ask this question, why comedy?
I'm sure you've probably seen or heard a meme that says people may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And if there's anything that I can do and enjoy doing, it's giving people a great time. Not to say I'm a people pleaser or anything like that, but it's just to have that shared, unique, high vibration, high energy experience. To be able to get on that stage, make some people laugh and forget about their troubles for a little bit. To me, that means so much more.
So how do you use, I mean, we all have our personal issues. Yeah. Do you like employ some of your sense of humor to deal with that? Or, because like I've heard comedians who have serious like, mental health issues. And, on the one hand, they could crack a lot of people up, but when the show is over, they're back to themselves. And then, so we can give a lot of examples of that, even famous ones. So do you have to do anything like that, or it doesn't happen to you at all?
Well, speaking to that experience, as a person who does comedy, you know the rush and the exhilaration and how all those happy chemicals start rushing through your body. And once you make somebody laugh, you want to keep making them laugh over and over and over. And it becomes almost like an addiction.
Yeah.
We wind up signing up for open mics automatically even an hour before they're supposed to or a day before, because we want to get back on the stage as soon as possible and make that happen again for ourselves and other people. It's very true. And even if it takes the crowd away from their cares for a little while, it takes the comics away from their cares for a little while. And even if you got to dig deep into a sensitive subject, there's the catharsis of putting it out there for everybody to enjoy or touch and agree with you on. And it's just a beautiful transference of energy and emotion. For me personally, I've just now started to get the courage to stand on stage and talk about having some struggles with anxiety and depression and having panic attacks. I've been able to do a couple of pretty funny, in my humble opinion, storytelling nights with another storytelling troupe, recapping my Mongolia experience and some of the things that led up to me doing comedy and leading up to that moment. So I think it's really important as a performance art, as an area of entertainment, and as something where we can all have a kind of collective release from some of the troubles in the world and feel better. I can't say it could be the be all end all for somebody's mental health issues, but it can give us a little bit of comfort for a little while and take us out of it for a while.
When it comes to topics, are there topics that are always your favorite, or there are topics like I don't want to touch upon?
Dating and relationships. One of my all-time faves. Because if we're talking about relatability and how we can relate to other people, everybody on this planet, unless you're asexual, wants to love and be loved, or wants to have a shared experience with another person, or animal, or plant, whatever your thing is. Do your thing, love yourself. That's definitely why it's one of my favorite topics. I don't care what color you are and where you're from. We all got crazy dating stories. We all got crazy sex stories. We all got crazy love stories. My other favorite topic is just the observational stuff. How we can shape events through our own point of view. Or what's going through our minds when certain outlandish things happen. How do we frame it into funny? Or even the most mundane stuff. How do we frame it into funny as an observation? I love seeing, I'm going to shout folks out. I love seeing somebody like Ben Frank get on stage and break down just the smallest situation into a 5-minute show. There's a mastery in that. And it's almost, if you have a really vivid kind of imagination, if you like painting images with your mind. With every word, you can start moving your little mind's eye camera and seeing what he's talking about. To me, that's a magical experience.
All right. So we talk about how good it feels when your jokes landed really well. How do you deal with the fact that sometimes it doesn't work very well, like bombing?
I'm trying to get quick enough on the draw, especially when I'm hosting, where if I feel adventurous enough to try something new, then I can get back on my feet and be like, all right, well, forget that joke too. Let's move on. But I want to be able to do something more than that and get quicker on the fly with coming up with new tags or dealing with an audience response to try and make that joke better. If I say, ooh, this joke did so bad last time, let me shape that into a joke. Then I like the challenge doing that.
And what about the comedy culture here? It's as Ian said the other day, he was like, this is not Comedy Center, but you've done it for a few years in here. Do you see the change in any culture or in the audience, how they receive jokes and stuff?
I feel like we're getting stronger as a unit, and we're being more rewarded by the fans to come see us on a regular basis. Because they know and they believe in what we're doing, and they want that same shared experience, like I mentioned again. They remember how good somebody's joke made them feel, and they want to relive that. Or they're interested in seeing new talent. I think it's getting better, and I think it can continue to get better, especially when we're dealing with such crazy, uncertain times where we need to be taken away from the outside world and brought into a funnier, happier place. You know?
Do you find any COVID-19 jokes that are inappropriate?
I kind of like dark humor, but at the same time, with it being such a heavy subject, it's changing lives and destroying lives and reshaping our global way of life. Everybody from every corner of the world probably has their one or two jokes that they could tell. What I like about it is hearing different perspectives that are original. Not just a whole, hey, yo, how about these masks? Hey! I want to have somebody make me think and put me into their shoes, and then find the humor in the tragedy somehow, or find the humor in the uncertainty. I'm good with that.
Okay, great. I mean, when I sit down and talk to you, there's so many questions that I want to ask you, not because of all the labels, like you're one of the few black comedians in China and that performed in Mongolia, and also as a lady and as a foreigner, it's just like it feels like there's so much that comes out of you, and it's all very positive. And then yeah, really. So is there anything you'd like to share with us about anything, like living in China, doing comedy, learning about the culture and bridging the gap, dealing with the COVID, anything?
If I can offer any bit of wisdom for anybody watching, live your life for yourself. It took me 30 plus years to start really doing that and understanding what that meant. And even though we might have people in our lives that we want to make proud or want them to always have something good to say about us because we're doing the things that they envisioned or that they wanted for us, live your life for yourself every day. That's the best piece of wisdom I can give.
Yeah. No matter where we are, where we're from, how we're raised, I think that's one of the things that we're dealing with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially now with all this uncertainty. You wake up in the morning dreading the next day, not knowing what you're going to do with yourself, cowering in fear, and just kind of like, I don't want to face the day. Shake that off. Go do you. like for people that are just kind of hibernating while all this is going on and not taking active steps to improve in their life or getting better education or getting more informed on certain things, I feel bad for. Because you could take this period and really make some huge strides and grow personally or professionally.
Exactly.
So I think that's why I say you got to go live your life for you, period. And this is a perfect time to start doing it.
Great. I think we're going to leave with that note. Leah, do you have any questions? We're perfect. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you
it's
so much.
It's always a good time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.